Okay, okie dokie. So I'm going to do a little sum up. I stopped right in the middle, but I'm going to do a little sum up of uh, things already discussed to clarify them. One is that the future that the ruling class is looking at, that they're hoping for, that they're aiming for, is sort of Plato's Republic. That's a socialized ruling caste ruling over slaves. And socialized, meaning that the ruling caste acts like it's a corporate body that shares their property with each other and coordinates to control the slaves. And you can read about it. The vision is very much like that of the fantasies of the slaveholders of the American South in the 18th century, who named their capital Memphis, for a reason. Okay, then the other thing, why is this happening? Well, the ruling class was almost overthrown, and one thing they learned over 600 years is that they can't domesticate people. There's a constant class war. There will be a constant revolt of humanity. As long as you're exploiting us, we will struggle against you to try to stop you. And that there's no way, that the bribes don't work either, that if you sort of super exploit one group and then bribe the other to divide them, if you do that, you super exploit one, the imperial division of labor, which I'll talk about at greater length. But if you super exploit one group and then sort of try to bribe the other with a decent, share of the spoils and a decent lifestyle, that doesn't domesticate people either. You can't, people, then all you're doing is giving them the leisure, the power, the independence, and the sense of their own dignity affirmed to say to themselves, why the fuck should we work for you? Why should we let you exploit us? That's you see that in the American context. This is a very interesting story, and I would recommend a book by a guy named Richard M. Pfeffer, long out of print, called Working in Capitalism or Working for Capitalism. But he was a middle-class guy, became a lawyer, I think at Johns Hopkins. Then he decided to go and do working class work, factory work, at the height of wages, and workers' power in the 70s, and to see what people's complaints were. It's very interesting. Anyway, you started in the 70s, you started in the United States, you had absenteeism, you had people don't stop, just like the upward mobility is people are constantly trying to take advantage of that on an individual level. And when you have that valve of capitalist societies squeezed closed, the upward mobility, the myth of the ladder, that you work hard and you move up into the ruling class proper, you stop being a slave to anyone. When that's closed off, people don't just take it. People don't surrender ever. So either you push people to the very limits of sustenance. There were revolts in Auschwitz. The Sonderkommandos even organized them, an underground in Auschwitz, and revolutionary populations. We all are potentially revolutionary. The ruling class has learned that there's no way. There's simply no solution. There's no amount of discouragement and bribery and carrot and stick that will make people stop fighting for their freedom. But they think that the best thing, so one of the things, they've given up trying to be overtly overlords, and they've basically, everything is about imposture now, is fakery, is trying to deliver people what people are fighting for, an illusion of it, disguised And this happens in every level, intellectually, socially, politically, financially, and I'll explain that more at length in a bit. Okay, but I just wanted to sum that up. So the reason this is happening now is they worked on getting the capacities to do this was the work of the last 30, 40 years. But the reason is because this is the ruling class's effort to remain a ruling class, to get rich and stay rich. To stay rich, is a constant battle. These fantasies that you can have riches without slaves. I don't know where this is a mental illness that affects a certain tiny slice of lumpen petty bourgeoisie, and also it's something that's put out by a lot of fakes. It's a vision that we see in fictions. But wealth is slavery. It's another name for slavery. Like to be rich, all it means is that you expropriate the labor of other people and the products of their labor. It doesn't mean anything else. It's just a word for that. Okay, then this is a little bit of an appendix. I want to go through a few of these rhetorical maneuvers, these gambits that are put to work on social media, and really dangerous capacities of the ruling class that concretizes social media, spectacle. There's a lot you could read about it, but Guy Debord, McLuhan, Baudrillard. Most important is Jonathan Beller. Everyone, that's Marxist mediology. I think he goes wrong in his later books on one issue that I would explain, but it's the most important theoretically and historically very enlightening work. So one thing that we see all the time is is the effort to convince people to treat crimes that ruling class offensives that have concrete outcomes as rehearsals, as mere exercises, and in preparation for the real assault, usually on the real people who are us. And most importantly, you see people now talking about the aggression in Palestine. So, you see, it's very, I talk to people about this siege, and I'm like, is all of Palestine, is Gaza not on this same planet that you live on? What you've been watching this and actually writing about it and talking about it. And then what they tend to do is say, oh yes, it was a rehearsal. It was some kind of rehearsal for this. Like as if those people are not props. They're not crash dummies. What they were the actual leadership, the actual political leadership, the vanguard, a huge part of the vanguard of a massive revolutionary movement in the land of where there's a lot of oil and other things, it's not a rehearsal. That was a war, and enabled what's happening, left the rest of humanity. All these victories against the vanguards, Haiti also, has left us without leadership, without the daring, the brains, the Marxism that had arisen in Palestine and that region generally. And, so that is one of the most pernicious mental habits or, propaganda techniques of the fake lefts. Everything was a rehearsal, nothing really ever